Hello and welcome to this IoT Now webinar, the end of video throttling for mission critical video surveillance. I'm Matt Hatton, founding partner at Transform Insights. I will be your moderator for the session today. Now, this idea of video analytics, video surveillance is a fascinating one and a key one in the world of IoT at the moment, one that we at Transform Insights have been focusing a lot of our attention on this year. I'll explain a little bit about that later. Few words of housekeeping. First off, though, the session will be about an hour. I will set the scene about some of the interesting things that are happening in video surveillance and analytics. Then we'll have a view of the Semtech and digital barriers, views of video analytics. Then we'll move into the panel discussion. And then at the end, you'll get a chance to ask your questions in the Q&A session. Do drop them into the question box. There's a little question icon that you should see on your screen. So drop your questions in there and we'll get to those at the end. To head off the first question, which is normally the most prominent question, yes, there will be a link to the recording available sometime in the around about an hour after the end of the session is what I'm reliably informed. So you should see that shortly. I should introduce the other speakers, though. Over to you, Rupa, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. My name is Rupa Datta. I'm the VP of Connected Services for Semtech, which means basically I manage the product line that spans across the global connectivity options, as well as network services.
Excellent. And Kanana.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, everyone. My name is Kanana Hussain. I'm the VP of Networking here at Semtech, essentially managing the AirLink networking solutions portfolio, providing mission-critical connectivity and networking solutions to extremely mission-critical applications and utilities, oil and gas, public sector, and federal markets. Over to you, Kunal.
Perfect. Thanks, Kunal. Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon. Good morning, all. I'm Kunal Shukla. I lead the technology and strategy for digital barriers. I'm the Chief Technology Officer based in Dallas. We'll talk a little bit more about digital barriers, but essentially we enable reliable, cost-optimized, predictable video streams on uplink channel to provide mission-critical video.
Excellent. Thank you. So as promised, a little opportunity for me to use a few slides just to give a little bit of an intro to the video analytics market landscape. Video surveillance we're talking about, but it's more than video surveillance. It's really that video is being used for a whole host of different applications, and it's being enabled by some quite interesting changes that are happening in the technology landscape. The first couple relate to the availability of AI. I'm probably not letting you into too much of a little secret in the technology landscape to say that AI is quite the coming technology, but there are a couple of areas that are specifically relevant to the video analytics landscape. First off is around advances in computer vision and AI models. So this isn't a specialist function. There has been video analytics happening in the past, but what we've seen is things like OpenCV and ImageNet and YOLO as pre-trained models becoming available that are capable of many of the video and image tasks that might have been more specialist functions in the past. Now, training might still be required, but it is a significant enabler of additional use of video analytics. And the other aspect is natural language interfaces for programming. So you can have AI assisted programming interfaces. For instance, is Joe wearing his PPE? Just used through a simple natural language interface or input that way, or when did Jane arrive at work, or whatever. So at both ends of the interaction with the video camera and the feeds coming off it, there are AI enablers. There's also network capabilities and optimization. 5G, I'm sure we'll come on to talk a lot about 5G in a little while. But effectively what we've got is speeds that maybe for 5G non-standalone, 5 times what we have with LTE, and for 5G standalone, maybe 5 to 10 times the speeds of that. So much faster speeds. Also, you've got features like quality on demand and network slicing, and that's all an enabler. And also, I mentioned there, optimization. Now, optimization, it's not just about how big the pipe is, it's about also how you can optimize things to make sure that you can get the most out of the capabilities you have. That's a topic that we'll be talking about later, and this would be a neat segue if I wasn't just only halfway through the first of 3 slides, but we'll come on to that in a bit. Hardware evolution and economics, a couple of aspects to that. We've got increasingly cheap cameras and increasingly capable cameras, and more and more processing and cheaper processing on edge gateways, and that's increasingly being seen as, I think, the way that you do your processing, implementing additional processing in brownfield deployments. Again, another topic we'll come on to talk about a little bit. So the economics are working out to be much more effective through that. AI orchestration integration. This is more of an emerging topic, but what we've got is easier or more tools available for integration of video analytics, AI models, handling business logic, management of how those models get updated, orchestration of all of the various functions, so that those pieces of functionality are coming through. And then we have increasingly dynamic developer environments, more developers, you've got low-code tools, it's easier to test and deploy various applications. So all of these things are helping to enable the use of video where previously we might have used IoT sensors, or we might have done nothing at all. So a few changes in the technology landscape that are enabling more usage. Now, we can then think about, well, where is this going to be used? A key part of what we do as analysts is consider where the changing technology landscape, and therefore falling barriers to entry in terms of things like cost and power consumption and so on, where those open up new opportunities. Now, this session is talking about surveillance, but it's not just security surveillance. That might historically have been where we thought about the video space being, but increasingly it's also opening up to a whole load of other areas, which I guess you could think of as being surveillance, but not in the strictest sort of idea of it being around security. So that will include, well, most obvious example, public safety and government applications. This is a pretty well established space already. But the increasing use of AI means you can overlay a lot of additional features. It removes the need for monitoring by a person. You can introduce real-time alerting and actions. You can also layer on additional things that aren't really necessarily around public safety applications. Retail and hospitality, I won't talk to each of these, but let me run through some of them. On the retail and hospitality side, well, the retail sector is really one where we've seen quite early adoption of some of the more sophisticated forms of video analytics now, initially around security and theft prevention, but it's extending also into better understanding buyer behavior, tracking in-store traffic patterns, optimizing product placements, all sorts of things, and typically using the same equipment. And I think that concept of the brownfield additional applications that you can layer onto these camera deployments is a key thing. And a few others, fleet and emergency services, detecting risky driving behavior, monitoring driver fatigue, capturing incidents for insurance and liability purposes, supporting first responders, and so on. Manufacturing and construction, this is where we actually start getting into some quite interesting and very specific use cases, which range from, well, some of the more general like PPE detection, but also things like process optimization or even quality control for detecting defects in production lines using video cameras. It's getting to be quite a sophisticated thing. Transport infrastructure is another. You have things like automated number plate recognition, road traffic monitoring, and so on. And there's a whole series of others. typically security is the primary use case, but increasingly it's around asset monitoring, workflow optimization, safety compliance, and a whole series of other things. Now, there's a couple of really interesting further developments that we're noting, which come off, I think, a lot to do with the reducing barriers to entry that I noted in the previous slide, that allow maybe this market to work in a slightly different way. One is around, so the penultimate one on my slide there, video sensing. So this is using video cameras as a direct replacement for sensors. So one form of IoT for another form of IoT, but not sending streams of data, but using the video cameras as effectively eyes and ears, and well, more eyes than ears, but potentially both, and for then action triggers, sending an MQTT message, for instance, and that's particularly interesting because it works in a constrained environment. And then the last one I've got on here, easy install programmable cameras. This is possibly more of a long-term thing, but the idea is that we've got cheap, super capable cameras that can tap into these increasingly powerful computer vision libraries with a simple command interface, which can be used for everything. So effectively democratizing the availability of video-based solutions. So some really interesting things happening in the space. And my last slide, this was our attempt to make some sense of the different roles in the ecosystem, with a view particularly, I think, to slotting the approaches of different players into it. And you can think of it like this: on the left-hand side, we've got the hardware part of it, which is well, mostly hardware, and that's cameras, the edge gateway, and you've also got local integration, maybe into access controls, but there's also their processing, edge AI models present on the edge gateway, or could be the camera, but most likely on the gateway. And that edge AI model is then managed from what's sitting over on the right-hand side, what we term the AIoT platform, and then beyond, tapping into computer vision libraries, model training. That's where the business logic's managed, typically where the video management system is sitting. And in between, you have some form of managed connectivity, which is handling the video feeds, but in a smart way. Network aware, I think, for us is the key thing here. And you will note on here, I think, that we've got network optimization at either end of that managed network connectivity, which is a topic for discussion in a little while. Again, that would provide another neat segue, but for one other thing, so you'll note in yellow, circling all of it, we've got hygiene factors around compliance, security, privacy, model oversight. It's increasingly important that someone is handling that, those hygiene factors associated with deployments of video. This is not a Wild West type scenario. So at that point, I should hand over to Rupa, first off, talk around some challenges of video surveillance. Rupa, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Matt, for that. So sure, let's talk about some challenges now. So here's the bottom line. Video throttling is killing mission-critical surveillance applications. So today I'm going to walk you through 5 key considerations that enterprises should address for video surveillance deployments: bandwidth, reliability, quality, costs, and security. So we're going to start with the topic of the webinar, which is really the throttling problem, which directly impacts the first 3 considerations: bandwidth, reliability, and quality. So here's what you need to know. Existing video codecs simply were not designed for low bandwidth connections. If you're deploying video surveillance in bandwidth constrained environments, you're going to face immediate challenges. With traditional carrier plans, video streams will be throttled once you hit the data cap limits. This means that those really familiar unlimited or fixed wireless plans are actually less than optimal for your surveillance use cases. And here's where it gets really critical. Deprioritization and throttling lead to degraded video quality precisely when you might need it most. The fourth consideration here is costs. current approaches that enterprises are taking simply don't work well. Higher data plans mean higher costs, and most of these still have limits. To conserve costs, we find that many enterprises are trying to move to scheduled uploads instead of real-time streaming, and what that does is it really defeats the purpose of live surveillance. Other organizations have tried to lower resolution to reduce bandwidth usage, but then that defeats the purpose of having modern analytics systems that need to recognize and record what's important. And then, of course, you have the challenge of managing multiple connections across different carrier platforms, which becomes complex, really expensive, and requires constant attention and monitoring from an operations perspective. The last in our considerations is security. And frankly, current solutions don't have adequate security features. When you're putting different services together into a patchwork solution, compromises inevitably are made, but security should never be one of those. Critical video streaming requires end-to-end security from the camera all the way to the data center. So to summarize, your video surveillance is going to require high bandwidth, reliable, unthrottled mobile data connections to deliver mission-critical videos. Let's share some real examples of what's happening when these problems are not solved. So a traffic camera, for example, misses a critical accident because frames were dropped during peak network usage. A security breach goes undetected because resolution automatically dropped when bandwidth was deprioritized. Manufacturing defects slipped through because poor image quality prevented the AI system from catching it. These are not hypothetical scenarios. They're actually happening today. So getting to some specific examples of where reliable, high-quality video surveillance is absolutely necessary, I wanted to focus a little bit on the transportation segment, using the use case of airports with foreign object debris detection. This is a perfect example when all of these pieces come together. High resolution cameras are pointed along the runways continuously, video monitoring for debris. AI and computer vision automatically detect objects that shouldn't be there, sending real-time alerts to the ground crew. Why does this matter? Because you need crystal clear imagery to spot something as small as a tiny bolt on a runway from a great distance. You can't afford lag, you can't afford degraded quality, and a missed detection could actually result in a catastrophic aircraft damage. Similarly, railways and metro systems use video for platform safety and track monitoring, and they also can't afford any gaps in coverage. Industrial environments, the stakes are just as high. Production quality control, defect detection, process optimization. This depends on consistent high-quality video feeds. Oil and gas operations, pipeline monitoring, remote facility surveillance across vast and often remote areas. These are all very important and critical use cases. Just like we saw in transportation and industrial applications, the lives and environment are at stake here. So these operations we know cannot tolerate any video degradation or gaps in coverage. The message here is really clear. Traditional wireless solutions with throttling and bandwidth limitations simply cannot meet the demands of mission-critical video surveillance. Enterprises need purpose-built connectivity solutions that guarantee bandwidth, reliability, and quality without breaking the budget or compromising security. The question isn't whether you need better video surveillance infrastructure. The question is, can you afford the risk of not having it? And on with that, I'm going to pass over to Kanana, who's going to talk about our solution.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, a little bit of my challenge over there. Thanks, Rupa, for laying out the challenges we continue to see in the field when it comes to mission critical video. One of the things that you mentioned really resonated with me is that these are not hypothetical challenges that we see. These are real world challenges that we see out there, that we hear from customers, that we hear from a lot of our partners. And it's something that we need to address, right, for mission critical video to really thrive. Now, let me walk you through how we're solving this. What you're looking at on the screen is a fully pre-integrated turnkey solution that combines secure connectivity, intelligent edge processing, and centralized orchestration, built specifically for video surveillance in demanding environments. The architecture includes 4 key elements. The first one is a AirLink XR60 cellular router, a rugged industrial grade and built for 5G LTE and satellite connectivity in the harshest of environmental conditions. The digital barriers edge whiz encoder, which is pre-integrated on the XR60 to compress video at the edge, minimizing bandwidth requirements for up to 90%. Our Semtech smart connectivity solution, a no throttling data service with intelligent multi-carrier failover. And our AirVantage platform, our cloud management platform, which hosts the EdgeWiz decoder and connects the video feed to any existing VMS through standard JSON APIs. The beauty of this solution is its simplicity, and simplicity is always beautiful. You're not buying a bunch of parts trying to stitch them together, which requires a lot of burden on our customers, our partners, etc. Because when you're stitching these things together, you have to guarantee the validation, the reliability. We've done that for you. It's fully pre-integrated, it's operational out of the box, and most importantly, it scales with your deployments. In terms of deployments, adding to what Rupa mentioned, in public safety, this can be deployed in mobile trailers, patrol fleets, and rapid response units, all of which demand live, reliable video, even in fringe coverage areas. On construction and industrial sites, it's used for intrusion detection, worker safety compliance, and equipment monitoring. And tying back to what Rupa also mentioned is in critical infrastructures, utilities, energy, and transportation can be deployed for remote asset visibility, even where only satellite coverage is available. So to recap, this is an edge to cloud video infrastructure that just works. You get the compression, zero throttling connectivity, centralized management end to end, and easy integration into your existing video workflows, all from a single vendor with a single support model. Now I'll pass back to Kunal to walk through the specific benefits that the solution delivers.
Thanks, Kanana. Matt, Rupa, Kanana, really insightful information out here. Just to quickly look at it, right? The way I look at it is the industry is going to 2 pivots, right? Number one, as Matt said, video is becoming a sensor. Video is becoming a source of data so that you can get insights and convert them into action. So that's part one, and it's growing at a tremendous rate. Number two is most of these solutions are going to be mobile. Gone are those days where you could trench a fiber cable and take the cost associated with it. People are expecting quick time to value, so things are moving to a cellular, satellite, or more mobility-based solutions. And that's where, Kanana, I completely resonate with you. The solution starts bringing that problem statement together where video is growing, it's on mobility systems. How do you create a pre-packaged, simple, scalable, cost-optimized offer? And that's what we do. So with that, I want to go a little bit in terms of how the solution is driving benefits to you and the customers and your customers and the industry ecosystem. So if I reflect upon some of the discussion points, right, if you think about video, including what we are seeing right now, video requires a lot more bandwidth, period. Each video stream is on an average 4 to 6 megabits per second. What our solution provides is the capability of reducing that 4 to 6 megabytes into 300 to 500 kilobits per second before it's put on the network. And the way we do it is using EdgeWiz's AI-based video codec, which uses advanced neural networks and network-aware technology. And Matt hit on that. Network-aware is the critical component, both together to drive that optimization of the bandwidth, which translates into cost optimization and storage optimization, which I'm going to talk a little bit later. But the solution is designed for low bandwidth, low latency environments where you have to have that mission critical video available at all times at a cost optimized price point. So that's where the benefit starts coming in, which is a reduction of about 80 to 90% of bandwidth. Which leads me into the second point, which is more critical along with the cost optimizations of the bandwidth, is the reliability and the quality. We spoke about reliability and the ability and the mission criticalness of video required, as Rupa was saying, is on an oil gas rig where users are actually doing work on a daily basis, construction sites, transportation, industrial events, where video becomes that source of data for situational awareness. In that case, losing video is not an option. And that's where the solution brings in two folds of reliability. Number one is the unlimited data with no throttling. Throttling kills video. And you guys have seen all of this when you're using Teams, when you're using WebEx, and you take that call on a mobile phone and start driving in. You will see choppy video. You will see jittery video. You will see stalling video. Now just imagine in a mission critical world where somebody's life and death is dependent on that, or operations are dependent on that. That reliability and not having that video becomes a challenge. And second part is Semtech's multi-carrier global connectivity enables you to drive that reliability as well to give that continuous video streaming. Hand in hand with reliability goes quality, because you can't just trade off quality for just having reliability. Quality is important, specifically as we move into video as a sensor world, where you are going to use AI, ML, computer vision to get those insights and convert them into actions to make money, to save money, to create new experiences. So this is where our solution has a trade-off, which it does on quality, but ensures that the scalability of AI and model scalability and accuracy of the AI and ML models are not lost. We ensure that an edge to cloud solution can be provided where you can have low latency, low bandwidth, but right quality video streaming so that you can still drive those accuracy of AI and ML models. The last part, the next part which comes in is cost. We all are running a business, and as part of that business, we need to make sure that whatever investments we are doing has the right ROI associated with it. The solution has been deployed and is being looked at from multiple commercial lens perspective. Rather than going and having a non-predictable data connectivity usage where you are paying overages, this brings you predictability so that you can now go and do your capital and OPEX budget planning with a predictable monthly fees. Kinana mentioned the single management platform. That becomes one partner for success for you, that is Semtech, who is bringing complete end-to-end connectivity for you so that you can enable all your mission-critical video cases. So with predictability, with cost-optimized networking, with potential of actually having storage optimization, the overall solution starts driving a much quicker ROI for you. Last thing, bringing back to what Matt was talking about, is hygiene. Hygiene is super critical. The technology which you are seeing right now, the EdgeWiz technology from Digital Barriers, has been proven at scale in government, defense, and federal world, where security was paramount and inbuilt security and privacy was done so that the government, federal, and defense agencies could use it. We are bringing the same goodness of the security and privacy to the enterprise world. The technology has AES 256-bit encryption. It has got FIPS compliancy, all the necessary bells and whistles required to go through a security and privacy check. With Semtech's edge to cloud journey being edge to cloud, the edge devices which are coming from Semtech routers and the cloud platforms which brings the end-to-end connectivity, we enhance this capability to provide the security and privacy required by all enterprises for their customers. So in a nutshell, if you think about it, in summary, what I would like to take you away, what I would like for you to take away is whether it's utilities, transportation, smart cities, enterprise security, our integrated, simple, scalable, cost-optimized solution will offer you reliability, quality, cost efficiencies, and security, which translates the real operational needs and the business outcomes and gives you a competitive advantage. With that, let me hand it over back to Matt. Matt, back to you.
Splendid, thank you, Kunal. So I mentioned we'd have opportunity for Q&A at the end, so please do, everybody out there in audience land, drop your questions into the question box. You'll find that on the question icon. But I have the opportunity now to discuss a few topics with the panel before we get onto the Q&A. I'm really kind of being a little selfish here because I think I've got a few topics which are mostly around sanity checking some of the things that I was talking through during the course of my little introductory statement. So my first one's really around why now. I highlighted a few of the areas that I thought were the ones that were driving the adoption of this video analytics, things related to computer vision libraries, increasing availability of that, hardware, and so on. But I'm interested in your perspectives. Kunal, perhaps I can come to you first on that one. What do you see as enabling more use of this video analytics?
Absolutely, Matt. As I mentioned, right, that growth of video as a sensor to get more insights and convert them into actions is seeing a lot more adoption, which is happening in the enterprise world, right? So with the advances which are happening on AI, video analytics, ML, that's where there is an embracement which the industry is doing in terms of getting video either at the edge or the cloud environments and start looking at patterns, start looking at what are the insights they can drive out of that. And at the end of the day, any enterprise or any business is looking at three things, right? Using that data or video as a sensor and applying the models, can they improve their operations? So can they save money? Can they make money? Or can they create new experiences so that you can transform your business? So in a nutshell, it's really about the advancement in the technology, building blocks, aligning with the business outcomes. That's what is driving the adoption, or the rate of adoption is increasing because of that.
Okay. And Kanana, Rupert, any different perspectives in the Semtech side of things?
Well, first of all, as we were going through our talk track, I thought about a better title for our webinar today, which is Throttling Killed the Video Star. I mean, that would have been a really good title. Unfortunately, I didn't think about this early. But Matt, you asked a very good question, and Kunal, I think, touched upon a lot of the different aspects of why now, right? And the way that I see it, we see essentially a few different kind of like technology forces converging at the moment. The first one is essentially the AI-based video compression, right? That's really a reality now. It's proven. We see the bandwidth savings with no degradation, and the no degradation portion of it is extremely important. The second one is now we have essentially this that we live in this world of multi-network, 5G, LTE, all kinds of different satellite connectivity, and it's mature enough to support real-time, remote, and mobile applications, right? And then the third one is edge computing, right? Edge computing capabilities that are now integrated in devices like the AirLink XR60 means we can process, compress, securely secure the video locally. Even before it hits the network, all those things have become a reality. And essentially that's why I feel the time is now. That's why essentially this solution becomes important and extremely relevant for to address the challenges.
Yeah, good stuff. Rupa, any further thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what the gentleman said. I think what we're seeing in the market and from our use cases a lot is higher bandwidth requests for sure. I think that we are seeing more sophistication in the applications that are coming through for these monitoring use cases. You know, with 5G emerging, with more intelligence at the edge, with more looking at facial recognition, looking at better quality video. I think definitely what we're seeing as requests from the market and our customers is aligned with what Kunal, Kanana, and yourself have identified in the market. So,
and I think taken to the nth degree, it seems like, and I mentioned this in my opening remarks, that what we're effectively seeing is democratization of the availability of the functionality, and but based on that, we've kind of extrapolated that out to, well, pretty soon you'll have a whole set of cameras which can just be used as video sensors, those that can be used as, well, just cheap cameras that can be put pretty much anywhere, and you can run a whole load of quite sophisticated applications on them. So there's almost potentially a pivot of some of what we would have historically considered sensor-based IoT into much more of a video environment, and it feels like that could very well explode. But I want to make sure that I'm sanity checking myself when I'm talking through this stuff, right? Is that does that make sense? Is that a sensible way to think about it?
Yeah, Matt, I'll give you my 2 cents. I think, yeah, you're absolutely. We are actually at this tipping point where an explosion is going to happen. The industry has tippy-toed around this. Let me be very clear, especially, right? So when it comes to video, video has not been a good citizen for connectivity. Let's be honest. People have not been able to monetize. Number 2 is enterprise market, specifically in security and surveillance, and anywhere video is there, they have worked around it. To your point, they have moved either everything to the edge, because they can't consume in the cloud because of the costs associated with the networking. So they have moved to the edge, and they have accepted the fact that you will not be able to get video where you really need. So they are actually working at the edge and increasing the cost at the edge. What we are giving as part of the solution is the flexibility through which they can actually do the right processing, whether it's on the cameras, whether it's at the edge, whether it's in the cloud. We're giving them multiple options so that they can do the right processing and get the right insights at where they need. And to your point, that's really is going to catapult and increase the adoption because of the flexibility of the solution and the different ways the solution can be deployed for them.
Okay. Kanana, Rupa, anything further to add on that? Although Kunal, I should note, you've raised some very interesting topics, which I'll come on to, around use of cellular, around architecting of solutions, all of those sorts of topics. But just this idea of, you know, a market for a huge number of video sensing, cheap cameras out there, is that something that Semtech's seeing as well?
Rupa, do you want us to
I think we are seeing multiple cameras, whether you're saying cheap, you know, whether they're inexpensive or expensive, we are seeing multiple cameras being attached. We are seeing, again, the need for higher bandwidths per router. So multiple cameras into a router, higher bandwidths per router, which would indicate an increase in traffic flow and data flow from those single devices. You know, that's where we can validate what we're seeing in the market. Now we are getting more requests for 5G standalone. We get that a lot. We're looking at, although we haven't gotten the applications yet that are more geared towards thin slicing or facial recognition or anything like that. So we haven't seen the move into that level of sophistication. So I think it will get there, and I think the applications will follow. But I think right now we're at a space where it's probably going to the optimization and efficiency category with how do I actually deploy multiple cameras in multiple places so I can watch tower all the time without getting to that analytics space yet. So I feel like we're kind of in that middle point where there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of design, there's a lot of probably sophistication coming in the applications, but today what we see in the market isn't as fully sophisticated as what we think.
Okay.
Matt, I had a couple of points just to add on to what Kunal and Rupa just mentioned. We have seen some video solutions. Obviously, they exist out there. They've been deployed, and as Kunal mentioned, it's the worst kept secret that video does kill networking and connectivity solutions, and essentially whatever infrastructure that has been put in place. What the change that we see coming about in the market is the adoption of, or the desire for adoption in mission critical deployments, right? And mobile deployments, remote site deployments. That's been a big change that we've seen, but obviously there are some barriers to adoption for them, right? If essentially everybody's doing straight camera stream to the cloud, you cause cloud congestion issues. Your cloud hosting costs go up. I mean, it's extremely expensive to deploy. So at the front end, it becomes commercial not viable, and then reliability, quality, all of the things that Kunal talked about, right, become additional barriers to that. And so the adoption in mission critical deployments with these type of solutions is essentially the holy grail, right? What we're really aiming to solve for, so that we can address those and drive the value that video brings, has brought in some enterprise applications and now into mission critical applications and deployments as well.
Okay, so I'll ask you an adjacent question then, Kinana, which is why cellular then?
So perfect kind of like segue, right? So wired or fixed wireless works when you're in a static, well-connected environment, right? But most mission critical deployments aren't. They're in construction trailers, remote substation, mobile command units, disaster recovery zones, locations where fixed connectivity either doesn't exist or takes too long to deploy. Cellular gives you the flexibility, the rapid deployment, which is a pretty massive cost to be able to deploy these type of solutions. And with the Semtech smart connectivity, it's also reliable and predictable, right? You add in AirLink's kind of like multi-carrier failover and edge intelligence, and you get a field-ready solution that stays online, transmits high-quality video, even as the conditions change, right? That's what cellular brings, and essentially the big advantage is the flexibility and the rapid deployment portion of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rupa, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I was going to say it's so the other thing about cellular is, even if you do have fixed assets, we talked about this in the webinar, sometimes with fixed wireless plans, you're really getting there is a data limit. So you get to a data limit, then you're deprioritized, or the throughput slows down, or something happens. So we want to make sure that we're addressing the fixed use cases as well as the mobile use cases in this case. And with our smart connectivity solution, we actually can apply the same resilience, the same uptime, and the same network selections across any use case, which really then goes to that talk track of, we're going to make sure that your throughput is consistent so that you can always achieve the quality of video that you require for your use case. Right? So that's somewhere, I think, where, regardless of whether you're fixed or mobile, we want to level set that talk track.
Okay.
A couple of points to add to what Kinana and Rupa said, right? Mobility is important, rapid deployability is important. But when you start thinking about wireless, right, there's a big aspect of coverage which starts coming in. Have coverage in rural, oil and gas, different areas, right? That's where cellular and satellite can start coming in, private versus public, different things. So coverage is an important aspect. And the second thing comes in is redundancy and resiliency. especially with Semtech solution, the ability to actually have multi-carrier SIMs and how do you do overlays can bring in much more of that redundancy and reliability. So I think the question is not either or, it is and, but it's more about what are the use cases and what are the industry you're doing. If you're in a transportation, you have to have a mobility-based solution. If you are actually doing it in an oil rig somewhere far away out Gulf of Mexico, you do need to look at how do you bring in cellular solutions. So to Rupal's point, again, I think it's not either or, it's and, but again, it's bringing that value of mobility, rapid deployment, cost, coverage, and redundancy.
And the flip side of this, to shift onto a slightly different topic, if you've got constraints on bandwidth, then you have to think about where you do your processing, right? So the topic of where should the smarts reside? Should that be in the cloud or should that be on the edge device? Well, there's a strong argument for putting a lot more intelligence on that edge router. It's so that you don't have to send all of your data back, right? Regardless of whether you're optimizing your bandwidth to in an appropriate way, there's still an architecture question, right, Kunal?
No, absolutely it is. And again, if you look at historically, right, there was a time, if you look at 5 years back, right, everything was in the data centers, right? Everything was kind of on premise, people were doing, and then they were like, no, let's take it to the cloud. Everything started moving to the cloud. Now they're like, oh, let's move it to the edge.
Sure.
I don't think so. The answer is one or the other. It is an edge to cloud based architecture, and that's what we strongly believe in, and that's what you need to bring in where the compute is happening. When you think about computer vision, right, I still don't think that everything should be done on the edge, because if you start doing everything on the edge and you start deploying your GPUs at the edge, you're really creating micro data centers. And there is a cost element. And when you think about processing, it's not just the compute, it's the power, the space, the cooling, the security. It adds cost, right? So again, it depends on the use case and the industry you're working on. You need to have an edge to cloud architecture where you're going to do processing. So that's number one. Number two is dependent on training versus inferencing. So specifically when we talk about video analytics, video surveillance, there's a training element and there's an inferencing element. Your training still needs data. You need to train your data. So there is an element of video which starts coming in between training and inferencing. And the third thing is use cases. And sorry, I'm going to take a little bit more time, but there are three use cases which we see in the market. Number one is edge-driven video availability, right? So event-driven video surveillance or video data. Where an event happens, to your point, you mentioned hard hat or a PPE detection. You detect a PPE, but today you're just getting a thumbnail. Only thing which goes up is to the cloud is thumbnail. Great, I can see that, but most of the customers or enterprise or operations or command center wants to see what happened 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after. So it's not just about detecting it, it's about giving the context. It's giving the outcome. So that's one of the use case, which still requires bandwidth, which still is going to put traffic. The second one is on demand, where a sensor, to your point, a sensor happens, which an MQTT message comes in. We saw this in Cal Fire, where California Fire put a sensor, thermal sensor detected heat. You got an MQTT message. Now you open up a video stream and you want to see what's going on. And that can go for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And the last part is 24/7. There are industries who still need that video data, whether it's for evidentiary purposes, whether it's for compliancy, whether it's for training the data. You do need to get that back to the cloud. So coming back to your question, we strongly believe in, and our solution is supporting that, is an edge to cloud architecture. Sorry, Rupa. Sorry, Kanana. Didn't want to take this much time, but I'm passionate about this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. We could go on this topic for quite a while, but I do want to leave time for questions. But I have one other topic that I wanted to raise. Kanana, maybe I can come to you on this one. Greenfield versus retrofitting of existing deployments. They're ripping or replacing cameras is a painful exercise, right? So I kind of feel like as an addition to what we've just been talking about around edge, actually most of the smarts are likely to sit on an edge router rather than on a camera, because it's just simpler for retrofitting to existing deployments. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, absolutely is. And as you mentioned, ripping and replacing is a costly proposition, and essentially a lot of times kills new technology deployments, right? And eventually gets in the way of further operational efficiency. So essentially, going back to our solution is extremely flexible. The XR60 can be dropped into an existing IP camera network without needing to change your VMS or your camera infrastructure. It will work. The edge-based encoder from Digital Barriers runs on the router itself, and AirVantage connects upstream to different VMS platforms that you might have through standard JSON APIs. So that's already there. That will work. For greenfield deployments, everything can be prepackaged from router to end encoder to SIM and management. For retrofits, the system complements and upgrades your current deployment without a forklift, replacement, as we're talking about. That's especially valuable for cities, large enterprises, and diverse infrastructure projects across multiple sites. So to answer your question, Matt, I mean, our solution, given its flexibility, can be deployed in retrofit applications where you don't need to kind of like rip and replace. It will fit in. And greenfield obviously kind of like would be the easiest, the quickest to install. And essentially, that if somebody's starting from scratch, they can go ahead and get started with a turnkey solution versus having to cobble up their solution together.
Yeah, good stuff. I think we really ought to go to Q&A now. I'm a little bit late getting to it. Bad moderator. But time for some questions, unless Rupa or Kunal, you wanted to add anything just finally on those.
No, you're not a bad moderator. We are passionate speakers.
my favorite kind. Okay, Q&A, and we've got a stack of questions, so we might have to do this in a slightly quick fire way. First one, we're based in the US and we plan to expand into Europe. Do we need a different set of equipment for the European market? I'm thinking about SIM and router. Rupa, maybe I come to you on that one.
Yeah. So so basically, no, you don't need different SIMs for the different markets. Our SIM is a global SIM that actually will light up wherever you send your solution, whether it's in Europe or the US. We also can do flexible plans. So if you have a deployment that's going to go across regions, we can actually do a single offer across regions. Or if you want separate SKUs for offers, we can do that. So quite flexible with that SIM opportunity, with no difference regardless of which area you are in the world.
Okay, good stuff. And next question, actually, this kind of plays to one of the things I was talking about constrained environments. So our clients have construction sites in Alaska and desert locations in Arizona. How does the compression performance and router reliability hold up in extreme temperatures? And what about areas with only satellite connectivity? That was the thing that caught my attention. Kunal, that might be one for you, or Kanana possibly, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. I can certainly take that one. The AirLink XR60 is designed for extremely harsh environments. That's one of its key reasons for existence, is to basically provide that connectivity in mission critical harsh environment type of conditions. It supports industrial operating ranges from -30 to 75 C. It's IP rated for dust and water ingress. So whether it be in a extremely cold environment in Alaska or a remote desert deployment, where cellular coverage may be limited or unavailable, XR60 can use satellite backhaul. It can use multiple cellular connectivity with failover. And the edge-based encoder essentially ensures that the video can be streamed over extremely low bandwidth links. And one of the ways that we have ensured that is that the XR60 has sufficient edge computing capability that even under different temperature gradients, our performance does not degrade. Our processing performance does not degrade. This makes it viable for temporary or mobile deployments in some of the most challenging conditions. Kunal, I don't know if you wanted to kind of like maybe tag on to that as well.
No, I think, Kanana, you summarized it well. So again, I don't think so there's an issue in terms of running in harsh environments. The software has been proven to run into those environments.
Yep. And same with the SIMs, ruggedized, harsh environment. All of it works.
Okay, couple more questions. I'm trying to. It's like flying a plane and feeding a baby. They say organising webinars. But okay, can you speak about the capabilities of your back-end server capabilities? And I think Rupert, do you want to have a go at that one?
So yep, so we know the front end already with the XR60 and then the compression software. What we have baked into the data centers is that the VMS is actually baked into the data center. So as your data is sent across our cellular network within our data centers, all secure, what would happen on the back end is we're not storing any of your video or any of your data. So that's very important for enterprises and customers to know. What we are going to provide is via AirVantage, that single platform, enterprises and customers will be able to log into the EdgeViz viewing platform and be able to view their videos on demand. So it's a very simple, again, simplicity is key, right, Kanana? It's very simple. It's a simple flow through end-to-end security and one singular experience for the customer.
Good. There was a question which popped up when, Rupert, you were talking about video codecs not being designed for low bandwidth, but I might push this one to Kunal, I think, but feel free to jump in on it. What about codecs developed initially for satellite?
No, that's a fair question. And again, satellites have low bandwidth environment, and that's really where the EdgeViz codec has been shining as well. So we have been running our software, EdgeViz software, on satellite systems, and there are some commercially viable systems where our solution has been working. The challenge with all those environments is these are proprietary codecs. If you look at the standard codecs, which are the H264, 265, they were not designed to operate on cellular or satellite networks. Our codec is designed to work on cellular, satellite, so it looks at what is the available bandwidth, packet loss, jitter, and based on that can dynamically adjust this. So short answer, we are the ones which are scaling and bringing it to prime time right now.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. And then we've invested heavily in our video management system and analytics platform. How does your solution integrate with existing VMS like Milestone or Genetech? Do we need to change our entire workflow?
So I can take this, as Rupa said, right? So we are coming in as a middleware. We do not expect you to rip and replace anything. So Kanana talked about the router, no replacement on the IP cameras. We don't want to change your VMS as well. Specifically, Milestone and Genetech have an SDK which is already integrated. So Rupa was talking about the backend. We can hand over the feeds from the backend to your Milestones and Genetech so that they can ingest it and nothing changes on your workflow.
Okay. And then can you clarify if the EdgeViz encoder is embedded in the XR60 router, or is the encoder an additional device that needs to be connected to the XR60? Maybe that's a question for somebody from Semtech, but Rupa,
Sure.
Maybe Kanana.
Maybe both Rupa and I can do this one for sure. So essentially, the EdgeViz encoder is embedded into the XR60 router. That's one of the big benefits that we have, is that it's very tightly coupled. It runs like an edge application on the XR60 router, and it picks up a lot of the different metrics that it needs to be able to complete its encoding. Once it gets encoded, then essentially of the smart SIM connectivity, it sends it to essentially our AirVantage platform, right? Where essentially then the video can be consumed through JSON APIs. So there's no need for a additional device to be able to do certain things. Our customers would have the capability or an option to be able to purchase another device, whether it be for computing for, let's say they're doing kind of like tons of different camera streams, right? That's certainly something that they can choose to do. But today, if they get everything prepackaged on the XR60, including the encoder. Rupa, I don't know if you wanted to kind of like say a few thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think you covered it.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Perfect timing. I think we're going to have to call things to a close here. Rupa, Kanana, Kunal, thank you. There were some outstanding questions. I'm sure someone will pick those up after the event. And there is, if I remember rightly, one final slide. It's a contact slide for Semtech. If you're interested in getting in touch with them, talking about the video surveillance solution that you have in mind and how to optimize it, I'm sure they'll be only too happy to hear from you. Rupa, Kanal, thank you very much for taking part.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Matt, for moderating.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Rupa,
Thanks all for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.